And we have a go for auto sequence start. T minus 17 seconds and counting. All systems are go. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and liftoff.
It's time to charge up with Victor Pisano.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to another edition of the Powercast from Charge Up. You know, the other day I went right down the street to Walgreens just to grab a few items, and I was getting ready to check out. I noticed that they had only had one register open. Now, most prototypes of Walgreens, you know, as you walk out, there's two registers. There's one on the left, there's one on the right. And so, you know, I kind of had that same expectation, but it was odd because you kind of had to weave your way to the register this time, the way they had put shelves, and they literally had one register for people to go to. So right off the bat, I could tell that the entire setup was different. Now, as I approached that area, I saw large red dots on the ground and immediately figured out that those were there for the patrons to know where to stand in line. They were each 6 feet apart. I stopped and I counted, and there were 5 people in line ahead of me, which means that register that I was trying to get to was 36 feet from me. It was at that point that it hit me. I was in an area of controlled risk. Now, 6 feet before this event with COVID-19 never seemed like a far distance to me. But I can tell you through that experience, 6 feet seems unreachable. I actually was describing it to a friend, and it reminded me of that speaking drill where you ask somebody not to start talking for 3 to 5 seconds after the other person completes their thoughts. So remember that it seems like an eternity, that space, that quiet space. It's so uncomfortable. Well, being in that line was extremely uncomfortable. It gave me feelings of insecurity, loneliness, fear, and anxiety. And the other part of it, it was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. 6 feet caused those emotions to elicit. I felt that way because of 6 feet. You see, our natural makeup as human beings is to be social. We're trained to act accordingly in social situations, you know, smile, make conversation, help someone who may need it, but carry on a conversation about the weather, small talk, but anything to help pass the time. At that period, at that moment, I almost felt like I was being punished, walking from one big red dot to the next. 6 feet, no talking, looking straight ahead, and leave when you're done. There wasn't even much of a conversation with the person who was checking me out. That experience will make you realize 1,000 things that you've taken for granted. Like, I actually miss small talk. I still can't get used to not shaking somebody's hand. You see, as a young boy, you practice that firm grip with your father because you're taught a man's handshake is his word. I don't see how a fist bump can ever replace that. And for those of you who know me, there's another struggle that I'm dealing with, and that's not hugging. I'm a hugger. I'm Italian, and after you've met somebody once, they're considered family, so you hug them. What's going to replace the hug? I mean, all of this is so much to process just psychologically, how it's going to all work, because social distancing goes against every natural instinct that I personally have. I'm an expert who thrives on being with friends and family and having conversation, lots of laughter, but it was amazing what 6 feet did to change my perspective right then at that very moment, and it's still in my mind. I know when this passes, and I firmly believe that not only as a nation, but as a community of countries, we're going to weather the storm and work toward discovering what's going to be a new normal. Just as we've done before during catastrophic events, there's going to be a period where we remember how to respect each other. We're going to be a little less stressed. We're going to take more time for ourselves and our families because we're going to realize how short life is. We're going to go out of our way to help others. In fact, life will become an amazing experience. But for those of us who are in our 50s and above, we know what happens. After a while, we begin to fall back into that routine, which eventually is going to lead to losing that control that actually made us our unique selves, that created an environment of gratitude and respect and love. And we're going to go back and we're going to be exactly the same sort of society we were before. We're going to forget everything we took for granted. We're going to sit at the shelves in a grocery store and decide which pack of toilet paper is cheaper. We're going to go back to complaining to the hostess at our restaurant that we were told the wait was 30 minutes and we'd been there 35 minutes. We'll have one of our kids get a simple ear infection and we'll just go to the ER. That way they don't have to wait until the morning to see their pediatrician. In other words, we're going to completely forget about 6 feet. In my mind, I always see something and I look at it as maybe it's my father sending a lesson. This is no different. But there's an irony in it, and I know it's a crappy analogy, but he's 6 feet under and I'm 6 feet apart. To this day, I think back to his funeral and I remember that 6 feet that they lowered the casket, it took an eternity. It was the deepest hole that I had ever seen at that very moment. And what is the irony of that being 6 feet? Because at that moment in the Walgreens, that 6 feet was the furthest I had ever felt from a person before. Friends, we have to commit to being self-aware enough to realize just how much we've taken for granted during this time of adversity. I don't know what it's going to take to teach an entire generation about gratitude, but my prayer is that this shocking sequence of events that have touched the hearts of people all over the world for years to come, we're going to come to reflect and realize that so many good things came out of a bad situation. That's my hope. I want to close with one of my favorite quotes from Franklin D. Roosevelt. He said it so perfectly, and it sums up my thought process of how we will endure and get through this. He said, "This is preeminently the time to speak the truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure as it has endured, will revive, and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Friends, go out, make a difference today, make an impact, have influence, and be a leader. Remember, leadership is a privilege. I sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen. For more Charge Up content, visit us at chargeuptoday.com. We're all over social media as well. As always, I'm humbled to lead. Have a safe week. Enjoy your family. Take this time to tell someone you love them. Take this time to connect with an old friend. Find positivity in a negative situation, because any gap that you have is going to be filled with negativity. So create situations of positivity. Find areas that you can assist and be proactive in showing gratitude. I hope you have a great week, and don't forget, my friends, charge up.
Roger, we'll stop. That was a picture-perfect end to a top-fueled mission. Everybody, welcome back to Earth.
Thanks for listening to Charge Up with Victor Pisano. Subscribe to the podcast at chargeuptoday.com.